My wife's lover thought he had one. But when he married another woman, I sent him a gift. He opened it, read the note, and froze. His new wife gasped, and my wife called me, pleading for mercy. She didn't know the gift wasn't just for him. It was my final act of revenge. It was supposed to be an ordinary evening. The kind of night where everything seemed just right. The air smelled of freshly brewed coffee, and the subtle hum of the refrigerator in the background was the only sound that filled the otherwise still kitchen. The soft glow of the living room lamp cast a warm light across the space, and the large window revealed the quiet streets outside, bathed in the amber hues of the setting sun. My wife, Ava, and I sat across from each other at the kitchen table, silently eating dinner. We had been married for 5 years, and things had, until recently, seemed perfect. Our house was a modest, charming place. Nothing extravagant, but it was ours. The walls were adorned with framed photographs from our travels together, our wedding day captured in vivid color as if frozen in time. There were no signs of turmoil, no obvious cracks in the seemingly smooth surface of our relationship. But as the night drew on, an unsettling thought began to creep into my mind, one that I couldn't quite shake. Ava had been distant lately more than usual. Her smiles were half-hearted, her responses to my questions distracted, and there was a coldness in the way she looked at me that I hadn't noticed before. It wasn't something that could easily be pinpointed, it was more like a whisper in the back of my mind. A nagging feeling that something wasn't right. But I had no proof, no clear evidence. Just a growing suspicion. Still, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. After all, we'd been through a lot together. The challenges of daily life, the pressures of work, and the occasional misunderstandings, these were normal. We had made it through them all. I wasn't about to let a few odd behaviors make me question everything. But then, the clues started piling up. The first sign was subtle, a small detail that, in retrospect, should have been enough to alert me. Ava's phone, always within arm's reach, began to be left out of sight. She'd take it with her when she went to the bathroom, or sometimes, it would be turned face down on the kitchen counter. Little things like that. A person doesn't notice until they do. One evening, while she was in the shower, I glanced at her phone, just a quick look, and noticed a message. The name on the screen was unfamiliar: David. The message was innocuous enough, asking if she wanted to meet up later that week, but it was the tone of it that made my stomach churn. The words were too casual, too intimate. Something in my gut twisted. But I still didn't act. I wanted to believe there was an explanation. After all, I'd seen nothing else that was overtly suspicious. But then, there were the late nights. I would wake up to find Ava still lying beside me, but the silence was heavy. When I asked her what she was doing, she would say she was just finishing some work, but I knew it was a lie. The distraction in her eyes, the subtle shift in her posture, it was there, plain for anyone who knew how to look. The breaking point came when I hired a private investigator. He wasn't cheap, but the more I thought about it, the more I knew I couldn't ignore the feeling in my chest. I needed to know. The investigator's report confirmed everything I feared. Ava had been having an affair with a man named David for the past 6 months. I remember the sickening feeling that washed over me as I read the details. My mind raced, flashing back to every moment I had ever trusted her, every moment she had seemed to be just the person I married. I felt betrayed utterly and completely. And then, the worst part, the final piece of the puzzle. The investigator had captured photographs of them together, touching, laughing, kissing in public spaces. Ava had been wearing a necklace I had bought her for our anniversary, and there she was, allowing another man to put his hands on her. The emotional weight of that moment hit me like a brick wall. My heart twisted, but I wasn't done. Not yet. I had to find out everything. The affair wasn't just a secret relationship, it was a systematic betrayal of everything we had built together. The moment of confrontation arrived when I found out about their upcoming wedding. David had proposed, and Ava, for reasons I couldn't comprehend, had agreed. The realization that she was planning to marry him, the same way she had promised to marry me, hit me like a thunderclap. There was no more denial. There was no more pretending everything was fine. It was time to take action. I waited for the day of their wedding with a calmness I had never known. The day arrived, and while Ava was busy preparing for the ceremony, I made my move. I carefully packaged a gift for David, something that would make him realize just how much he had underestimated me. The gift was wrapped in deep red paper, with a note tied delicately to the top. The wedding was taking place in a picturesque location, far from our home. I made my way to the venue, blending in with the guests, the sweet scent of roses in the air. The bride, Ava, was radiant, as she always was. But beneath her beauty, there was a hollow space. She looked so happy, so at peace with her choice. David, standing at the altar with a smug grin, thought he had one. He thought he was free from me. But he was about to learn just how wrong he was. During the ceremony, I waited patiently, my gift in hand. As soon as the vows were exchanged, I stood up. Everyone's eyes turned toward me, confusion flashing across their faces. With a slow, deliberate motion, I handed David the package. His face faltered for a split second, but he took it, a curious smile still on his lips. The guests stared, and Ava's eyes narrowed. She looked at me, and in that moment, I knew she knew something was coming. David tore open the wrapping, and inside, he found an envelope. He unfolded the letter, and as he read, his face drained of color. He froze. The note I had written was simple, yet it held everything he needed to know. "You thought you were safe, didn't you? I know everything. And now, you'll know exactly what it feels like to be betrayed. Enjoy your wedding day, because it will be your last moment of happiness." I watched as he handed the letter to Ava. Her face went from confusion to shock, and then to horror. She gasped as she read the contents: photos of her and David, evidence of their affair, along with details of their secret meetings. I had made sure she knew just how deep the betrayal ran. The room was silent as Ava dropped the letter, tears streaming down her face. David's hands shook as he tried to comprehend what was happening. The wedding had turned into chaos, and I stood there, knowing I had delivered justice. The satisfaction was bittersweet. But I wasn't done. In the days that followed, I began to put my plan into motion. It was one thing to expose their affair, but it wasn't enough. David needed to lose everything. His job, his reputation, his life. And Ava? She needed to experience the same pain she had inflicted on me, to feel the devastation of losing everything. I started with David. I had learned that he had built his career on a foundation of lies, using underhanded tactics to climb the corporate ladder. It wasn't difficult to gather the information I needed. I contacted his colleagues, subtly insinuating doubts about his work ethic and integrity. Slowly, the whispers began, and within a week, David was fired from his prestigious position. Ava, on the other hand, was even easier to ruin. She had always been the type to take pride in her image. I contacted the people who had worked with her, revealing the truth about her affair in a way that would leave no room for doubt. Her friends stopped talking to her, her colleagues avoided her, and soon enough, she was the talk of the town for all the wrong reasons. The worst part was seeing them both unravel. They fought bitterly, their love crumbling under the weight of their lies. The once bright future they had imagined together turned into a nightmarish mess of recriminations and regret. They had no one to blame but themselves. And in the quiet aftermath of it all, I felt no sympathy. I had reclaimed my dignity. I had gotten my revenge. In the weeks that followed, I watched from the sidelines as their lives continued to crumble. Ava came to me, begging for forgiveness. She cried, apologized, and pleaded for me to take her back. But I had no interest in healing her wounds. She had made her choice. As for David, his life was a broken shell of what it once was. His reputation was tarnished, his career destroyed, and his new marriage to Ava was hanging by a thread. The gift I had given him that day had been the final nail in the coffin. I had won. But as I looked back on everything that had happened, I couldn't help but wonder if the price had been worth it. The man I had become, the cold, calculated avenger wasn't the person I had been when I first met Ava. The betrayal had changed me, had hardened me in ways I hadn't expected. But as the saying goes, some betrayals don't break us, they build us into something stronger. Like the video if you think justice was served. Subscribe for more stories of betrayal, revenge, and the price of trust.